I'm Barbara Gregorich, author of Research Notes for Women at Play, Volumes 1, 2, and 3. I've already talked about Volume 1 in a different video, and in this video, I'll talk about Volume 2. Authors are different from one another, not only in what they write and how they write it, but also in how they think about the sales of their various books. For example, some authors set a target number, such as 1,000 copies or 500,000 copies, and aim to sell that in their first year. Other authors don't even think about targets. I sometimes aim at a yearly number for one or more of my titles, but mostly I think about how to market them rather than how many copies will be sold. However, back in 2010, when I decided that I would publish some of my research notes as a book, I did think about book sales, and I thought of them as a kind of race. I'll explain what I mean by that. Once I determined which parts of my research notes could be published, I realized that I would have a 600-page book. I don't know about you, but I'm not particularly fond of 600-page books. And so right then and there, I decided that I would publish my research notes in 3 volumes, each approximately 200 pages long. Not only was this a less formidable length, but, and this was important to me, it created the possibility that the books could lie flat or mostly flat when opened so that people could write in the margins. I figured these were books that people would want to write in the margins of. Now, once I realized that I would be publishing 3 volumes, I knew that I would have to divide the materials into 3 parts. And after I did that, it seemed only natural to ask myself, will these 3 books sell in equal numbers, or will one of them be more popular? Back in 2010, I never did answer that question to myself of which book would be more popular, but I did predict which book would be the least popular, which book would sell the least. I felt that the second volume would be the one that sold the least. I had a feeling this would happen for 2 reasons. First, based on the material in my files at that time, I felt that volume 2 would be the shortest of the 3 books. And I somehow had a gut reaction that perhaps because it was the shortest, it just wouldn't sell as well. More importantly, I think I had the understanding that the middle book of a trilogy is not often as interesting as either the first book or the concluding book. Middles are sometimes flat. In fact, the flat middle is a problem in fiction. For example, in the Stieg Larsson trilogy of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I feel that the middle novel, The Girl Who Played with Fire, is not quite as satisfying as are the first novel and the concluding novel. And for these reasons, I felt that Volume 2 of Research Notes for Women at Play just might not attract as much interest as did Volume 1 or as I hoped Volume 3 would. Was I ever wrong? Research Notes Volume 2 is not the shortest of the 3 books. It is the longest of the 3. And it is not the one that sells the least. It is the one that sells the most by far. Volume 2 was published in 2013. And once I saw that this was a pattern repeating itself year after year, that this was the best-selling of the 3 volumes, I obviously or understandably began to wonder why. Why does this book sell the most of the 3? One possibility is that while volumes 1 and 3 contain information about women playing on Bloomer Girl teams, volume 2 contains information on women who played on otherwise all-male teams. Perhaps readers would find this more challenging and therefore more interesting. I don't know. This is just a guess. Another possibility as to why Volume 2 sells so well is that two of the individuals within the book are Jackie Mitchell and Babe Didrikson. These two young women made baseball headlines in the 1930s, and they are known to some sports fans today. In 1931, Jackie Mitchell struck out Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig in an exhibition game. In 1932, Babe Didrikson won 3 medals in the Olympics, then went on to play baseball for the House of David, and in 1934, she pitched in Major League Baseball spring training games. The names and deeds of Jackie Mitchell and Babe Didrikson made headlines, and people seem to enjoy reading about these women today. They enjoy the original articles and the wonderful information within them. And as it turns out, both Jackie and Babe were basketball stars before they turned their talents to baseball. I was only subliminally aware of this before I began to collect all the materials for Volume 2. Once I became aware of it, I added this information to the materials that would become Volume 2. This is one of the factors that made the second volume longer than I originally thought it would be. Further, at least in the eyes of Babe Didrikson, who is known to brag about her accomplishments, Jackie and the Babe were rivals. Some of Babe's challenges to Jackie are printed in Research Notes Volume 2, and they make entertaining reading. I'll read one now. This is from the Port Arthur News, Port Arthur, Texas, March 12th, 1933. The headline is, Didrikson says she can't accept challenge. According to the newspaper report, Jackie Mitchell challenged Babe, quote, to face her on the mound in a baseball game this summer. Babe replied that if she accepted every challenge, I'd be busy every hour of the day and night filling engagements that really don't mean anything. Although she refused the challenge, Babe did say that, quote, if I ever happen to be anywhere near at the same time Jackie is there, I'll let her see whether she can outpitch me and bet her she can't, end of quote. So there is some of that rivalry and ego of the Babe in the book, and I find that fun reading. I would imagine others would too. Also, I suspect that people really enjoy hearing what sports reporters of the 1930s thought of the Babe as they watched her play. Here's an excerpt. This is from the Cleveland Press, Cleveland, Ohio, March 26, 1934. It's by their sports reporter, Stuart Bell. The headline is, Didrikson is the McCoy. She can throw, hit, field. Attention, Prexy Bradley. Alva Bradley was president of the Cleveland Indians at the time. So Stuart Bell, the reporter, writes that the Babe, quote, isn't any joke as a baseball player, unquote. He argues that Babe Didrikson is in a class of her own. And then he talks about her pitching against major league and minor league baseball players in spring training. He says, at spring training, Babe got into all the pepper games with the regular players and did everything they could do. His conclusion is one of my favorite of the sports reporter coverage of Babe Didrikson. He says, maybe the Babe can't play second base as well as Bose Berger, though that is hard to tell because nobody ever saw her play second base. But she can beat Bose up there at the dish. The Babe takes that bat off her shoulder and swings it. So had I known about the Jackie-Babe rivalry, and had I realized how many sports reporters commented on Babe Didrikson's baseball abilities, I might have predicted that Volume 2 would be the bestseller of the 3 books. For a variety of different reasons, writers can make incorrect assumptions about how their books will do. Sometimes we overestimate, sometimes we underestimate. And I have to say, it's a happy surprise when we underestimate how well a book will do, as in the case of Research Notes for Women at Play, Volume 2.